Hello viewers, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Dr. Nachi Sinha, and today's video is the 5th video about emotional abuse. In my previous videos, I've talked about what is emotional abuse and what are its common signs, how to end emotional abuse, how to help your friends or family members going through emotional abuse, how does emotional abuse hurt and affect the victim. Today, I will talk about a common problem in our society, blaming the victim for the abuse. We will discuss why victim shaming is harmful and how you can play your part to stop victim shaming. So let's start with today's video. Whether it is an emotional abuse, physical violence, rape cases, or any other heinous crime, most people question the victim before empathizing with them. Let me give you an example here. When a rape victim shares her trauma to any online platform, she is first asked why she was with the rapist, why she got drunk, why she didn't see the signs of him coming. This is a very common case. Before people empathize with her or support her to overcome the trauma, they make her relive and re-experience new depths of agony. I have observed that many ask these questions and come with unsolicited advice to prove that the world is safe and that crimes and abuse can be prevented if people become more cautious. But deep down, we all know that the world is not safe. Some really harmful people live amongst us, and when they get an opportunity, they hurt us. People who question the victim or judge him for not being careful are a part of victim blaming. Moreover, justifying or defending the abuser's actions is also victim shaming. For instance, if a wife complains about his husband shouting or threatening her, her friends and family defend the husband by saying, "Hey, maybe he was angry or he didn't hit you, etc." Now, many people think that questioning the victim or trying to find loopholes or flaws in their story is not harmful. And if you think that too, I'm sorry to inform you that you're wrong. According to me, victim blaming is not much different than emotional abuse. When a person comes for help, asks for support, and opens up about his experience, he should be given unreserved support without any judgments. But, unfortunately, before helping the victim, people ask them all kinds of questions to ensure that their side of the story is true. I will share a list of statements and actions that count as victim shaming, so let's take a detailed look at them. 1. Not believing the victim. It takes a victim a lot of courage to come forward and ask for help. The victims of emotional and domestic abuse are afraid of their abusers. They're scared of what will happen to them if their abusers learn that they have shared their problems with someone. If a friend, family member, colleague, or person opens up and shares his experience, be friendly. Understand their problems and don't be judgmental. Sometimes many people open up about their problems and are not supported by their family and friends. Because of it, these victims continue to suffer at the hands of their abusers. Another common way of victim shaming is asking the victim why he was abused. Simple questions and remarks like, "Why did he insult you? Are you sure you're not overthinking it? What did you do to make him angry? But he only screamed at you, he didn't hit you. It's okay, he's your partner, give him space." They disappoint the victim and make them regret their decision to ask for help. In my previous videos, I've discussed that emotional abuse victims have low self-esteem and they doubt their judgments and observations due to gaslighting situations. Hearing such remarks from people further shakes their confidence and self-esteem. They start thinking that maybe emotional abuse isn't that bad and that they should stay in an emotionally abusive relationship. Moreover, such statements boost their confidence of the abuser. They get the validation that they aren't doing anything wrong with the victim, and they continue to hurt, disrespect, and abuse the victim. The third sign of victim shaming is asking the victim about their actions and then judging them. When victims of physical and emotional abuse come forward with their stories, many people question them about what they did wrong. For example, if the victim shares that he was threatened or yelled at by the abuser, he is asked, what did he do to trigger the abuser's anger? Please, refrain from asking about their actions or finding what the victim did wrong that resulted in emotional abuse. Understand that abuse is never a result of any action. The abuser has no right to abuse the victim, especially based on the victim's actions. Siding with abuser. The friends and family members of the abuser often defend him when he is held accountable for the abuse. They try to defend the abuser and do not show any kind of support to the victim. When victims share what they went through or how the abuser made them feel, people try to justify the abuser's actions. For example, they will say things like, "You also shouted at him. Why didn't you listen to him? I've always known him, he isn't like this. He's not like that always, you've just done something that triggered him," etc. Saying such things makes the abuser stronger and braver, whereas the victim will feel helpless because people around him justify the abuser and think it's something completely normal. Some people do not question the victim or justify the abuser. Instead, they ask the victim why they didn't share their stories earlier. 5. Questioning the victim why they didn't speak earlier. Emotional abuse goes undetected a lot of times. The abuser tries to control the victim and critique them constantly. The victim is made to believe that he is not good enough. He makes a lot of mistakes, which is why the abuser critiques them and gets angry. So many victims do not seek help or quit the relationship at the beginning of the abuse, just because they do not understand that they are being abused. When the abuse worsens and reaches a stage where the abuser threatens to hurt the victim physically, that's when the victims realize that they are in an abusive relationship. That's why people do not exit the relationship initially just because they are not aware of being abused. Hence, asking them questions like, "Why didn't you speak earlier? Why are you sharing this now? Why did you continue the relationship if it was abusive? You should have spoken up from the beginning," etc. These questions are sometimes the main reason why emotional abuse victims do not step forward and ask for help. These questions are like signaling to the victim that he is not speaking the truth or he's making things up. People speak up about their abuse and negative experiences when they are ready to open up or in direct need of help. Such questions scare victims, and they believe there is no way for them to escape the abuse, hence refrain from asking such questions. Another characteristic of victim blamers is that they will be unsupportive. If a victim shows courage and walks out of an emotionally abusive relationship, victim blamers do not support him. Instead, if he suffers financially or faces difficulty with managing kids, he often receives remarks like, "Your partner was there to support you financially. Maybe you should have remained in the relationship for your kids. You should have thought about all the problems you'll face after ending the relationship," etc. The victim's family and close friends also don't support him in many cases. If he goes through any problem, they don't help out. Instead, they imply to the victim that walking out of a relationship was a mistake and that they should have thought it through. Let's talk about detrimental effects of victim blaming. Number 1, it empowers the abuser. Victim blaming is harmful to the victims, and that's because victim blaming empowers the abuser. Instead of holding the abuser accountable, people question the victim and try to find the why leading to abuse. This encourages more people to be emotionally abusive in their relationships, and when the victim warns them of the consequences, they are not afraid, just because they know that before society judges the abuser, the victim will be questioned first. So many emotional abusers do not move an inch or think about the consequences of abuse. Instead, they confidently tell the victims, "Go ahead, nobody will believe you." The second disadvantage of victim blaming is that victims feel helpless. Victim shaming hinders many victims from sharing their stories and ends a relationship. The first thought that crosses the victim's mind is, "Who will believe me?" This question stops people from asking for help. Instead, they suffer in abusive relationships and tarnish their mental and physical health. Furthermore, victim blamers do not support him. If a victim sets his foot down and ends the relationship, he is repeatedly reminded by victim blamers that walking out of a relationship just because of emotional abuse was not a good idea. So, is there anything you and I can do to stop victim shaming? Yes, there is. There are many ways by which we can play our part and stop victim shaming. Number 1, put yourself in the victim's shoes. The first step to stopping victim shaming is to put yourself in the victim's shoes. Before questioning or judging them, just take a moment to think how you would have felt if you were constantly critiqued, insulted, mocked, and yelled at by your partner or family member. Or how would you have reacted if your partner had imposed unreasonable restrictions and demands? Think about what the victim went through and how emotional abuse affected their mental health and personality. You wouldn't ask them hurtful questions by relating to the victim's situation or imagining yourself in their place. accuse the abuser instead of questioning the victim. Remind yourself and others around you that abuse is never justified, so next time a person shares his emotional abuse experience, do not ask them any questions like why it happened, why he didn't do something earlier, etc. Instead, appreciate the victim for mustering the courage to speak up and exiting an abusive relationship. Once society understands that an abuser is to be questioned and held accountable in abusive relationships, victims will not be afraid to come forward and seek support. Do not pass hurtful remarks. The best thing that you can do for an emotional abuse victim is to listen to them without passing hurtful remarks or judgmental questions. It takes a lot of strength to open up to someone about your dark experiences and helplessness. Thus, if a person trusts you enough to share his problems, do not let him down. Be all ears for him without saying anything that might make him regret their decision to trust you. We do not side with the abuser or justify his actions. In many dating relationships and marriages, people often support the abuser and dismiss the victim's claims. They say things like, "It's okay, he's your boyfriend. She's your wife. She can't possibly mean to hurt you. My friend isn't like that, you're over-exaggerating," etc. Never, I repeat, never defend the abuser. If the person claims that he has been emotionally abused by someone you know, just listen to them. Try to be understanding, and before you give your final verdict, remember that the person you know might not be abusive with you, but they might have been abusive with the complainant. The best step for stopping victim shaming is to help them and support them. Try to understand the mental state of the victim. Learn about the effects of emotional abuse on a victim's personality and mental health. By doing that, you'll be in a better position to empathize with them and extend your unreserved support. By taking small steps, we can stop victim blaming. Another important thing that we can collectively do is stop the people from victim shaming. We can educate them about abuse and how it's never the victim's fault. Emotional abuse is not something to be taken lightly. It can make the person depressed and, in severe cases, suicidal. Hence, be empathetic and not judge people unless you've heard their complete story. And that's it for today's video. I'll see you next time with another video of the emotional abuse series. Till then, take care. Goodbye.